Death Backstage. The story is set in the 1930s, USA. Claudia Mason, beautiful and popular young actress, was found lying across the chaise longue in her elaborately furnished dressing room, dead from a bullet wound in the temple. She had sold her jewels and, with an heroic gesture, partially paid her many debts. Near Claudia's right hand, Sergeant Reynolds picked up the revolver with which she had been killed, and after careful examination said,
"No fingerprints, of course. Gosh, Fordney, there's 2 rocks she didn't sell."
he exclaimed, pointing to a large emerald on her left hand and a diamond on her right.
"Call Maria, her maid. I want to find out who this fellow is,"
said the professor, nodding toward a man's photograph signed, 1.
This was evidently addressed to him,
he said, passing over a note which read, "Dear one, I am so despondent. The money from my jewels was not nearly enough. Claudia."
"Not many of these dames kill themselves over their debts,"
muttered Reynolds as he went to call Maria. The maid entered the room, sobbing and hysterical.
"Who is one?"
asked Professor Fordney.
"He's the leading man in the show.
"Why wasn't this note delivered to him?"
I forgot it."
"You found her?"
"Yes. When I came to help her dress, she was like that."
"Is one in his dressing room now?"
"I believe so."
When Reynolds brought him into Claudia's room, he dropped to his knees beside the dead girl.
"My God, she's killed herself."
"No, she hasn't, a young man. She was murdered,"
said the professor. Why was he sure it was not suicide?
The professor was sure Claudia's death was not a suicide, due to several key pieces of evidence. The jewels. Claudia sold her jewels to pay off debts, yet she left 2 valuable stones, an emerald and a diamond, on her hands. A person intent on suicide would likely have sold everything of value, to ensure their debts were settled, or to leave something for their loved ones. Leaving behind valuable possessions is inconsistent with suicidal intent. The lack of fingerprints on the gun. While the absence of fingerprints isn't definitive proof of murder, it's unusual in a suicide. A person taking their own life would likely leave fingerprints on the murder weapon. The lack of fingerprints suggests someone else handled the gun. Juan's reaction. Juan's dramatic display of grief upon seeing Claudia's body is suspicious. His genuine-sounding shock and distress could be a performance designed to conceal his involvement. His reaction is not the natural reaction of someone who had just discovered a loved one had committed suicide. The undelivered note. The note expresses despondency, but doesn't explicitly state a suicidal intent. More importantly, the maid's failure to deliver the note to Juan raises suspicion. This suggests a deliberate attempt to prevent Juan from receiving the note, and potentially preventing him from preventing the murder or alerting authorities. In summary, the combination of the unsold jewels, the lack of fingerprints on the gun, Juan's suspicious reaction, and the undelivered note strongly suggests that Claudia Mason was murdered, not that she committed suicide. The evidence points towards a planned murder, possibly involving Juan.
There were no fingerprints on the gun which killed Claudia Mason. She could not have shot herself in the temple and then wiped off the revolver. The murderer neglected to get her fingerprints on the gun. A fool cannot be an actor, though an actor may act a fool's part. Sophocles.